How the Iroquois Great Law of Peace shaped U.S. democracy. Much has been said about the inspiration of the ancient Iroquois Great League of Peace, implanting the seeds that led to the formation of the United States of America and its representative democracy. Okay, so this is just talking about that the Iroquois, they had the Great League of Peace, remember, which meant that we had to think about all the people, what was good for everyone, not just one person. And they're saying that this Great League of Peace that the Iroquois had, it kind of shaped how our government is set up today. The Iroquois Confederacy, founded by the Great Peacemaker in 1142, is the oldest living participatory democracy on Earth. In 1988, the U.S. Senate paid tribute with a resolution that said, "The confederation of the original 13 colonies into one republic was influenced by the political system developed by the Iroquois Confederacy, as were many of the democratic principles which are incorporated into the Constitution itself." Okay, so the Iroquois Confederacy, the Great Peacemaker in 1142, is saying it's the oldest confederacy democracy, the oldest participating democracy on earth. Okay, it's been recognized by our U.S. Senate, and that the Confederation of the 13 colonies, when they were founded after the American Revolution, that many of the Iroquois Confederacy political system that they had put in place in the 1500s were used when we made the very first Constitution. The peoples of the Iroquois Confederacy, also known as the Six Nations, refer to themselves as the Haudenosaunee. Sorry if I butchered that. It means peoples of the long house, and refers to their lengthy bark-covered long houses that housed many families. Theirs was a sophisticated and thriving society of well over 5,000 people when the first European explorers encountered them in the early 17th century. So this is a picture of the longhouses we talked about in lesson 1. And remember, I said it would be like me living there with my brother or with my sister and their families. So many families live together, kind of making a clan or a tribe or an extended family. The Iroquois Confederacy originally consisted of 5 separate nations: the Mohawks, who call themselves Kanien'kehá:ka, or people of the Flint Country; the Onondaga, people of the hills; the Cayuga, where they land the boats; the Oneida, people of the Standing Stone; and the Seneca, the people of the Big Hill, living in the northeast region of North America. The Tuscarora Nation, people of the Shirt, migrated into Iroquois country in 1722. The Great Peacemaker brought peace to the 5 nations, explains Warren Lyons in a 1991 interview with Bill Moyers. Lyons is the faithkeeper of the Turtle Clan of the Seneca Nations, and a member of both the Onondaga and the Seneca Nations of the Iroquois Confederacy. At that time, the nations of the Iroquois had been enmeshed in continuous inter-tribal conflict. The cost of war was high and had weakened their societies. The Great Peacemaker and the wise Hiawatha chief of the Onondaga tribe contemplated how best to bring peace between the nations. They traveled to each of the 5 nations to share their ideas for peace. A council meeting was called. The Hiawatha presented the Great Law of Peace. It united the 5 nations into a League of Nations, or the Iroquois Confederacy, and became the basis for the Iroquois Confederacy Constitution. Each nation maintained its own leadership, but they all agreed that common causes would be decided in the Grand Council of Chiefs, Lyons said. The concept was based on peace and consensus rather than fighting. Okay, so we're talking about the Great Peacemaker, the League of Peacemaker. We're talking about that there were 5 separate tribes. They were all kind of living in what is now known as New York. It started out a couple people, and then they grew and they grew and they grew, and it began that they were fighting over everything. They were fighting over resources, they were fighting over land, they just were having lots of issues. So that's when they formed the Iroquois Confederacy, which banded all 5 of them together, all 5 of these tribes together. There was a leader from each tribe, and they would get together to make the rules and to settle arguments. okay? And it wasn't about each individual tribe. The whole concept or idea behind it was to make peace for all of them rather than have all of the fighting. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know.